We are live. Hey everyone, Jenna Quinter here. Thanks for joining Jenna Quinter, JQHQ Live. I'm interviewing Amy Boulding. She is an author who just wrote her very first book called Dearly Departed. So thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and just let a few people see if they can join in on this live stream before we get started. And if you are, let us know where you're from. Drop, let us know if you're from Florida, Texas. We want to see where you're located. And if you watch us on repeat, hashtag repeat. And if you are watching this live, hashtag live. So, anyways, it looked like we had a couple people join for a second. So we'll just wait for a moment. How's it going, Amy?
It's good. It's hot here in Texas. I know you know how it feels. You're not here anymore, but you know what the Texas heat feels like, and we're feeling it.
Yeah, it's been getting a lot. It's been getting a lot hotter in Florida, and I'm just thankful for the pool days. Or occasionally when I go over to the ocean, I just will hop right in, and it's just at least that cools me down. So
Yeah. Right.
anyways, let me make sure that everything is working, and then we will get started, y'all. Let me see. Just checking it out on my page. Okay. It looks like we are live on YouTube. Okay, great. Okay, let's go ahead and kick it off. I know people will be joining us. So again, welcome to my channel on YouTube. I'm Jenna Quinter, interviewing the beautiful Amy Boulding. So fun little fact, Amy and I are both from an itty bitty teeny tiny town 2 hours east of Dallas called Hawkins, Texas. It's known as the pancake capital. Aunt Jemima, shout out to her. But yeah, that's what put us on the map. And we don't even have a pancake capital town or pancake house out there, but that's where we're from. That's how we met. And I've been following Amy's career pretty much like, what do you think? Like maybe for about 10 years, we've been connected on Facebook. And she is such an awesome boss babe. She created a podcast. She sells homes. And now she is a book author. And she even did a little bit of modeling back in the day. So Amy, thank you for joining me. And I would love to hear more about what's going on with you and your world. Tell me about where you're living and how you even got started on your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. So if y'all hear a little twang come out, that's from Hawkins.
Yeah.
Funny, it's something I didn't know I had until I moved to another city, and then they'd say, Amy, say why, and I'd say, why? Why you want me to say why?
Wow.
So this come out. I'm sure you'll catch it as you hear us both speak. That's that Hawkins accent for you. But I'm in San Antonio now, the San Antonio area, just north, and I've been here for a couple of years. I moved up here to the area. We actually moved up to a farm at the time I was married. And so my family moved up this way, and unfortunately went through a divorce, which is where the book came from. And, just ended up selling the farm and just ended up sticking around. So, that's what I'm up to now, kind of put the modeling days behind me, kind of back to my original love, which has always been songwriting and poetry. And, the divorce kind of opened me up to that, which we can talk about. And so I'm just here raising my kiddos. I do real estate in the area, and still doing podcast interviews and writing books.
That's like the number one job, is being mama bear.
Yep.
And you are a mom of three.
3 girls.
And 3 girls. You were such a warrior. I just had my 2-year-old in February 2 years ago. And oh my goodness, it just changed my world, but in the most amazing way. And it's also made me realize like how much time I don't have to myself. And so I value it so much more. So I'm just so impressed that you even wrote a book with having 3 girls. I want to know, like, how did you do that?
Yeah. And I just want to commend you, because I see your posts, and I try to comment when I can. Motherhood is hard, and I've seen you, grow into a mom, and I've been doing it for a while now. I started early, but I've just seen you kind of like overcome your own struggles, and so I'm proud of you for that. But yeah, so a couple of years ago, my whole life just kind of fell apart. It went like this. Started going through separation, and then at the same time, or right after, my two youngest daughters were in a really bad car accident, and it just sent me into a spiral. And there was a lot going on. We had purchased our dream home. Like I said, it was our dream farm, and it was on 19 acres out here in the hill country. And like I said, life just kind of flipped upside down on me, and I started therapy. And then my therapist was talking about processing my emotions. There was just so much going on. It was a very intense time in my life, and I just felt so stuck and so angry and so just devastated. And so I found myself, I started writing a little bit more, and he actually advised, he said, you should start something called a grief journal. So like when you're having really, really hard days, you just need to write, because I had told him that I had a background in songwriting and poetry when I was younger. And, life gets in the way, you become a grown up, and then you forget about those passions. But he kind of, gave me that direction. So I just started this grief journal, and they started naturally kind of forming into poems. They were kind of lyrical, just because, again, I think that came natural because that was my background. And we started talking about the stages of grieving, and he was, comparing that to death, and he was comparing the loss of love, especially, we were together for nearly 12 years. Somebody you've been together with for so long, when you lose that person, it's like losing someone to death. And you have to go through all of the stages of grief. And traditionally there's 5. So there's acceptance, denial, bargaining, depression. I'm not saying them in any particular order. And then anger. Acceptance is usually at the end. So anyways, when I was writing in my grief journal, I started kind of pinpointing like, oh, this looks like this is bargaining today. This looks like this is denial today. This looks like this, might be a little bit acceptance, because you vacillate. But so what I started doing is because I didn't have really anything else to do to escape the pain, I just kind of tried to keep my mind busy, started organizing them, and started realizing, wow, I have poems in every section here. So then I just put it into a Word document again. I was just processing, and I always like to say I had this little voice that was like, hey, this is stuff you might want to share. This is stuff that other people are going through. This is stuff, this is grieving that a lot of people can relate to. And I kept saying like, no, kind of like swatting it away. Like, who the hell am I? I'm not putting anything out. And I kind of resisted that. And that little voice just kind of kept nagging. So I started categorizing them, and then I started sending it off to friends who had either gone through a divorce or maybe were going through that process, and having them read it. And, these are the girlfriends that will like tell you if you're going out and your outfit's ugly. So I knew they were going to be honest with me. And when they started telling me, hey, this is really good, like this was very helpful, this, helped me a little bit, that's when I started thinking, okay, this might be something I need to put out, not for me, not for my own ego, but this might be something that could actually help somebody. And that's kind of how I got started. And then I started on the journey of putting it into a book.
Wow. Yeah. Some of those obviously the feelings that you go through are just super raw. And I remember when I was little, I had suffered from like bullying. And so writing in my journal really helped me. And I actually went down the path of writing songs too. And I wish that I would have known that that could have been like an actual career. But you're right. Like sometimes we put those things, our dreams aside, we just kind of bury them. And so I'm so proud of you that you were able to like use that as a way like to be like have some type of therapeutic method or strategy for you to get through this. Because although I have not gone through a divorce and I have a very healthy relationship with my husband. I have been through some really tough relationships. And for instance, I remember when I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, I ended up going to a church called Celebrate Recovery because they had like a codependency class. But one of my girlfriends, she was going through a divorce and they had a divorce class. And I would go with her sometimes to attend those things. And I do remember them speaking about how it does relate to grief. And it is super hard especially when it's like your best friend. And so what would you say is like how did you initially just begin? You're like, okay, you've got your journal, you have your poetry. How did you decide like, oh, I want to turn this into a book? Like, was it when you asked some of your friends, or did somebody suggest it, or had you always wanted to do something like this?
Yeah, so I've always, I don't even know why, and I've always like walked through bookstores, bookshops. I'm an avid reader. I like to read a lot, and just said like, wow, it'd be really cool if I had my book on the shelf one day. But so I've always kind of had that dream, but never really put anything into action, which is surprising because it does come so naturally to me. And I think this is one of the benefits that I can say of having gone through this process, is because it has cracked me back open to that passion and back open to that desire. And I write all the time now. But that wasn't the direction I was really going. I wasn't really kind of pursuing that dream. Like I said, it was more of just really thinking like, hey, if one person picks up this book and some of my words can help them, that would be great. And so I started, like I said, just kind of putting it together and getting the idea and kind of fighting with myself on, whether or not I was actually going to do it. And then I thought about, well, I kind of tried to tell myself, let me just scale back. Let me just do a blog, or let me just do a podcast instead. But I just really felt a calling in my heart to really just go through with it and make a book. Go through with it, make a book. I don't know what I'm doing. Doesn't matter. Go through with it, make the book. It was just a very strong calling, and it's something that I'm very thankful for. And so I just started researching and kind of figuring out, the avenues and the methods, and or continued organizing everything. And what's funny is what I found is that I was writing during the marriage and not realizing it, or not really paying much attention to it. Like, we would have a fight and I'd be really upset, and I would write a poem about it, and or just write a couple lines in my notes app. And what happened for me when I started organizing it, and this was like the final push for me, I started to feel myself healing a little bit, and I sort of had this bird's eye view of the entire relationship. Because then I had these other poems that came from while we were in our marriage and the struggles that we were having. And then I was able to kind of pinpoint, this is where we went wrong, or this was something that I was in denial about. This was something that, because I take ownership of that. There was a lot of denial going on, and there was a lot of just not knowing how to be in a relationship. And there were just a lot of things. And when you have that bird's eye view and you have that understanding, you start to heal from it. And that's what I experienced. And once I saw that, I was like, okay, so this is a book that you don't necessarily have to have been divorced. A lot of it is about marriage, but a lot of it's just loss of love. And I just felt like it was so important, because I remember the day when all of that clicked. And I remember thinking like, this is devastating that this ended. And it felt like the rug was pulled out from underneath me. But when I really look at it and I really analyze it, I've not only learned a lot as a person about myself, but also I can see where we went wrong. And that just really helped me heal. And it really helped me find that, end goal, which is acceptance, which, like I said, you vacillate a lot from back and forth. So that's when once I realized that, that's when I really started pursuing it seriously. And I just continued to organize it. And then I started researching, the steps. And that's kind of how it ended up. But yeah, I can go into those steps. I don't know if you want me to. It's kind of maybe boring for some, but I can kind of go into those if you want me to.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like having the baby and then going through postpartum depression, which I still think I do experience it some days. Um, it's one of those things, like, you don't kind of realize you're experiencing it. I remember one time I had like just some type of rage, even when I was like pregnant. And I just like remember hopping out of the car when I was with my husband, like in the middle of the road, like crazy, like I was doing crazy things, or waking up, having insomnia and just leaving the house at like 3 a.m. in the morning to go to the ocean just because I needed like me time. And it really like kind of shifted our relationship once I had the baby. And so I do have some poetry that I write throughout my marriage and everything like that. And it's one of those things that it does like help your soul like to process. And although I have not got to read your book yet, I love poetry, and I am very empathetic and in tune with my feelings. And I would love to definitely dive in and check out your book. I imagine it is already helping so many women, because whenever you go through something like that, like, whether you lost somebody, or um you just or like things just ended, um it's just really hard. And so it makes people feel that they're not completely alone on the journey. And I'm just so proud of you that you wrote this, because you really are going to help so many women, and men too.
Yeah, I think so. I've actually had a few men reach out, and I'm like, look, the book's real girly looking, but I think anybody can relate. If you've ever had a heartbreak, if you've ever had a loss, you can relate.
Yeah.
That's kind of the goal. Is I wanted to publish something that, you know, how sometimes you just hear that song, and it's that song that just like really hits you, like the words in it, and so
Oh
like
my goodness, it
you're
brings me to tears.
yeah, it just brings you to tears that you just sit in the car and listen to because the
Mhm.
words you relate to them so much. And just hearing that somebody else experienced what you experienced is so it just does something for the heart. And so
It helps you feel connected for sure,
yeah,
and have hope.
same thing with like the postpartum, I was that was part of it too. Like we were raising young babies and
Mhm.
there's some poems about that, about how like the falling apart of the marriage, a lot of it may have had to do with my craziness and my postpartumness and my neediness. And it's a real thing. And depression in itself is something that I've always struggled with. And then
Mhm.
having babies, it's like it was amplified. So, yeah, it's just something that I hope that anybody that picks it up heals from it because I hope they can relate to it because that's how we, like you said, find connection and realize that we're not crazy. We all just have broken hearts and we actually process a lot of it the same way. And
Yeah.
despite how different you are, like we all go through a lot of the same emotions. So I just hope to connect with the readers and that they can see it and heal a little bit themselves too.
I have no doubt that you're already doing that. You just had your first, book signing, right?
Mhm. Yep.
How did that go? What was that like for you? And how did you even create your first book signing? Like, how did you know to even market yourself, or what were some of your marketing things? Sorry, I'm asking you a million
No,
questions.
that's okay. I'm super long-winded anyway, so I'll wrap it all up into one really long-winded answer and we'll be even. So there are a couple of different routes to go, which of course I didn't know what I was doing. You can either self-publish or you can go the publisher route, which I was researching, and I initially was trying to go the publishing route with a publishing house. And I was sending in my manuscript, and there's a whole process to that I had to learn. And I basically just did a bunch of research. And it was the same way I started modeling too. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did a bunch of research until I found the answers. And so I started sending in the manuscript as I was still working on it. And there were a couple of like nibbles where I had some publishing houses that had reached out. But then I started to realize that as far as the control that you have and the goal that I had and just trying to reach out to people and I didn't want it to feel like a commodity, so to speak. I wanted to have a little bit more control. I decided that a self-publishing route might be better for me, because I am so emotionally connected to the book, and because, like I said, I had that real spiritual pull. And so it's not that I wanted to do it and not make a dime off of it by any means, because there's a lot of hard work that went into it. But I wanted to have more control. So I started researching the self-publishing route, and then fortuitously, so like I said, it opened me up to writing. I was writing little things here and there. I had recently, this was like a year after my divorce, I had started dating someone again. And I was writing little poems here and there, little love poems. I somehow stumbled on this page of this girl who was calling for authors to submit their poems because she was going to do a compilation book. And so I submitted my poem, and she published it in her book. And I was just, that was my first published poem ever.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that.
And the book was just, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And I started looking at her stuff, and I was like, man, she does this a lot. She publishes, some books for some other authors. I think she's got her own little house. And so I just reached out to her, and I was just like, hey, I'm a new author. I would love any direction that you may be able to offer. And, she said, like, actually, this is what I do. Like, I work with authors, and, she said, I can help you with the whole process. I was like, okay, great. Because I'm the talent. I don't know the specifics. There's a movie line somewhere. I'm the talent. Oh, no, it's Anna Faris in Just Friends. Love that movie.
Oh, yeah.
So I just was like, yeah, girl, like, take me under your wing. And I worked with her to design the book. So the book is, I'll show a little bit of it.
It's beautiful.
It's very thank you. It's very.
Oh, I didn't see the inside.
And it's very, like, I wanted it to be more than just the words. I wanted it to be very artistic, and I want to turn it into a coffee book one day. And so,
can you show up the hand, hold up the front of it?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And how many pages is it?
This one is, it's not super thick, but it's longer for a poetry book. But let's see here. Technically 112.
Wow.
And so it goes through all. So what it does is it goes through all of the stages of grief. So it starts with death. So there's a lot of references to like funerals, and we kind of combine like a lot of lace and flowers to look like
that's beautiful.
Like it's your mourning. So I start with the death of the relationship, which I think it's funny because I'm sorry, but I love Taylor Swift. I think she's an amazing writer, and she just put out her latest album, and I'm like, I see some like similar trends there. Did Taylor Swift pick up my book and copy me?
You never know. Beyonce apparently does that.
Yeah, so that was kind of the idea. So I worked with her, and we designed it, and I told her I want it to be very artistic. We handpicked every picture that's in the book, and I just really wanted it to be beautiful, and I wanted the pictures to convey all of the emotions. So it starts out really dark with death, and then you move through all the stages: anger, denial, bargaining, and then eventually acceptance. And the pictures get brighter as you get towards the end, towards acceptance. So it was a fun project. And then so I worked with her, and she kind of helped get me going. And then again, just doing a lot of research. What does a self-published author do? Started joining a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of Facebook groups, getting advice from people, watching YouTube videos. And, when you're self-publishing, you don't have a publishing house backing you. And that's part of the downside of having all the control, is that you have all the control and you're by yourself. So it's a lot of work. And in order to get the book into stores, you really just have to call stores. And I'm working on getting it across Texas. I'm starting with San Antonio. I've got the book in 3 different areas, of 3 different shops here in the area, and then 2 different libraries. And you really you submit your book, and if they'll look at it, and they'll look and see if it fits their guidelines and if it's something that they want to carry. And so I'm honored that they approved it. And then most bookshops will have author signings, and they have a calendar, and you just ask to get on the calendar. And it's that old adage, if you don't ASK, you don't GET. So I just started asking. Right. And and then online, it's on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And that was submitted through Rachel, who I worked with. She helped me get all that set up through Ingram
Oh, nice.
Sparks. And then I'm working on getting them in stores at Barnes and Noble, which is, again, it's the same process. I'm actually waiting. It's a 6 to 9 week process to see if you get approved. And I think I submitted it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So fingers crossed I can get it in stores in Barnes and Noble. But it's online there now, and she kind of helped me facilitate that. So I just got a pro and compensated her for her time, and had her help guide me, because she did beautiful work, and I knew she was going to get me. I sent her my Pinterest board, and she was like, "Oh girl, I got you all day." And
That's amazing.
I wanted it to be very kind of like vintage, and some like Lana Del Rey essence to it, and just very
Yeah,
moody,
I
because they're very,
love Lana.
yeah, it's very heavy emotions, very, especially the depression section. It's heavy, and I wanted the pictures to convey that. So I partnered with her on that. Long-winded answer, I told you.
I'm so proud of you. Yeah, I had heard of a couple. I have like 2 people that I've been connected with that I know help entrepreneurs write their books. And I have always been curious myself to go down that path. And I even went to the library one time, and there was a girl who self-published, and she just publishes books left and right. And
Mhm.
it still amazes me, because it is work. Like, it is your heart and soul, and you're putting it out there for people to read. And um couple things, actually. My cousin, actually, she's a book author, and she is in Barnes and Noble, and I would love to connect you with her. Her name is Kat Patrick. She writes a lot of books for teen girls, and I would love to. I'll do an introduction to you
That'd be
privately,
awesome.
so
Yeah.
that y'all can chat. She lives on the west side. So, and then I remember when when was it? I was 19, and I was living in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I don't even know how I found this guy, or he found me, but turns out he was the nephew of Robert Ludlum from Born Identity Books.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
So his uncle wrote all the Born Identity books, and Robert, and then he himself had went to law school and graduated from Yale, and he wrote a book called The Ludlum Identity. So he named it after his uncle. And I used to call Barnes and Noble to try to get his book in the store. And so I know you have to have a certain amount of like grit in you to be known. So like, I'm so proud of you for taking action, because it's like, it is a numbers game, getting yourself out there, just calling. And like, what I want to know is like, how did you face your fears of like, did you have self-doubt? How did you face your fears of overcoming that? And are you struggling with anything now that maybe me or somebody else can help you with?
Yeah. Oh yeah, girl. Like I said, there was a very long period of time where I was just telling myself, like, who the hell do you think you are? You think you're going to publish a book? But you've known me, you've seen my journey as an entrepreneur. There's just been so many things that I've started and released, and I really think that that's what my soul is here to do, is just to experience life in all those ways. And out of all the things, once I got over that hump, and once I saw purpose to it, it got very easy to set that voice aside and just say, look, no, we're doing this because there's a purpose to this. And when it came down to it, out of everything that I've ever introduced or presented or put out there, I felt at so much ease. It was just like, here's my heart. And it's very, very vulnerable. It's very and if I really think about it, I freak myself out a little bit about it, especially at first, about like, oh, you really are just putting all your stuff out there. But to be clear, and I always try to make this well known, like, I have a good relationship with my ex. This is not like a man-hating book by any means. It's not me trashing him or trashing our marriage, because I loved being married and I loved being a wife, but we messed it up, and that happens sometimes. And it really is just my journey of healing. So there is the section called anger, so I'm mad in a couple of those pages, but when it came to presenting it, it was just like, look, this is my open heart. This is it. Here, take it, read it. I hope that it helps you. And when there was that purpose backing it, it made it a lot easier. And it also keeps me going because it is confusing and it is hard to be like, okay, I don't know anything about this. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got to do a lot of research here. Not sure who's at my house.
Do you want to go? You can go check for a second.
Somebody's here. I don't know who. I'll see if they ring the doorbell. I think it's my kids coming in and out. Anyways, everybody's home for the summer, so hopefully everybody understands that. But that's what got me through the self-doubt. And then, like I said, I'm continuing to write, and I'm working on my second book now. And that little voice does try to creep up. And there's days, and I tell new writers this all the time because this is something I had to learn. There's days where I look at it and I want to throw my computer across the room. I'm just like, this is garbage. But I remember feeling like that when I first started writing for this other book and thinking, this sucks, and you talk yourself out of it. So it's a lot easier once you go through it and then once you have some purpose. And so that's kind of how I overcame that. It was just kind of a natural inclination because, like I said, I felt so spiritually pulled to it. But if anybody else is going through like the self-doubt thing, the one thing I can just say is find the purpose behind it. Whether that's just I want to be a millionaire, so I want to write this book, or I just want a legacy. I want something that's here when I die, or this is going to help this person. Keep the person it's going to help in mind, and that'll really get you through it. That would be my best advice, and that's what helped me.
I love that. Yeah, it's almost like once you write your book, then you have that notoriety where it does help you stand out above, like not that you're better than anybody, but it is hard work getting yourself out there like that. And so now it's like it gives you even more reason to go on podcasts and you have more things to speak about. When you were writing your book, how did you finally decide, okay, this is it, this is the end, without like thinking, oh, do I need to add this extra thing? Did you just automatically know that once you finished it was done? Or did you what was your process of like putting everything together?
So yes and no. So I got to a point where I was like, okay, I think I've got enough poems in here, but then like stuff kept coming through. So during the process, there were a couple of poems that were added at the end. And then once we got to a point where, okay, book is in design, we can't change anything else. I just kept writing if stuff did come through, and I put it aside in a folder because what I would like to do is maybe do like a second edition and expand on it. Because even now I still process things and I think about things and I'm like, oh, I see how that was. And then a poem will just hit me. And that's kind of how it is when you're writing, is things come out of thin air. A lot of times it's when you're falling asleep. And so there was a point where I was like, okay, I'm just going to put this extra stuff aside. I feel like it's complete. I feel like it's whole. And yeah, so it just felt, I wanted to make sure that each chapter or each section had, good amount of poems in it. And then once I reached that point, I just felt like, okay, this is a good amount. And then I did add a couple at the end. And, but yeah, I feel like it is complete. I mean, I could add to it. And like I said, I do want to turn it into a coffee book. So I think I would anyway. So I want to do maybe a second edition. But yeah, so, I did feel like there was a point where, okay, this feels solid, this feels done, but couldn't really put my finger on why or how I got there, but I did reach that point where I was like, okay, like we're good. We've got what we need here.
I love that. And what would you say it was like the most rewarding feedback that you received from some of your readers?
So it warms my heart because I've had people that have reached out and they've said, I'm going through a divorce. I'm really hurting right now. And it breaks my heart for them because I know where they're at and I know what they're going to go through. But whenever they say that they read it and they come back and they say, I had your book and I really found healing from it, that it just warms my heart. It's the best thing It's the reason I published the book. And it's one of those things where I thought I may have sold 2 and I would have been happy with it. But when I have people and they randomly reach out to me and they're just like, yeah, I just happened to see your book and I wanted to reach out, that it makes my heart happy because I know that it's doing some good. And along with experiencing things, I also think that's a purpose for me here on earth. I think I was meant to do some good. And so that makes me feel really good. And then
a beautiful soul, a healer. Yeah, natural healer.
Yeah, it feels good. And so that's always, that's confirming for me and solidifying everything that I did had a purpose. My favorite compliment ever, I just got it the other day. I'm getting ready to do a book reading, my second book reading at another bookshop here in the area. And the owner was like, hey, I've been, putting books on my shelves for nearly 30 years. And he's like, this is the best looking and well put together self-published book that I've ever put on my shelf.
I just got goosebumps.
And I wanted to cry right there. I don't think he understood the weight of that comment to me. And I was just like, I got teary-eyed. I was just like, thank you so much. It's just so validating, and it's so it's not even an ego thing. It's just like, I'm just so grateful that people see the beauty and see what I was trying to do and they get it. And that's just like so gratifying and so validating. So that's been the best compliment that I have, other than when someone comes and tells me, hey, this helped me. I love that. I love hearing that. And I hope I hear that the rest of my life. I hope everybody's reading it and telling me those things.
That's really beautiful. Actually, there's this poetry book. I wish I had it with me. I don't know where it is, but usually when I have somebody that has, I know somebody that's passed away or something, I always get them this book because of the pictures in it are beautiful. My mom actually got it for me, and it's very healing. And I never picked it up until after my Mimi, my grandmother, passed away. She passed away 3 months before my wedding.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like grieving throughout that. Like that was like losing my mom because she raised me. And that book really helped me. And so I imagine I can see such big things for you, because now that, like, I do have some friends that have gone through divorce, and now I know that I can send a little care package with the book in it for them so that they can heal. And I know other people can start to do that as well. And it really, the poetry does, it really does help heal your soul. And when you have beautiful photos in there to look at too, it's even more rewarding. So I'm just so happy that guy, the owner of that bookstore, said that to you. It gave me chills when I heard that. I actually like got a little emotional for you. It's
thank you.
It's really, really, really kind to get feedback like that.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something else? Sorry.
No, yeah, no. It makes me really happy because, like I said, I wanted it to be beautiful. And speaking of, I have a little surprise. I haven't told anybody this at all. I've got news. And I think it's a good time to share it.
So this is a first? Whoa. I feel very honored.
I'm going to be doing it soon. So this just actually happened today. What I've been working on, aside from my next book, is creating a grief journal. And so I got my first author's copy today. I'm finalizing. I'm finalizing the design, and it's going to be available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble soon. This is the author's copy. It's not for sale here, but this is what it looks like. So this one is not just for divorce. It's just grief in journal, a grief journal in general, and it has pages for all the stages. And then I've got this little introduction here, so it kind of has the same feel of the book. So if you have somebody that's grieving, so it goes through anger, this could be something you could send them if you want. So it's got the same feel of the book, but it's not necessarily like wedding or love, related. But yeah, so this is something that I just got this in the mail an hour before we logged on, and I'm excited.
I'm so excited for you. Wow. It's called Grief and All
Stages.
All the Stages?
All her stages.
All her stages. Sorry, it shows backwards for me right now.
Yeah,
so
it looks reversed. So anyways, yeah, grief in all our stages, a journal to guide you through. So I'll send you a copy once I'm able to order those. But
I
it
would
goes
love
through all
that.
the same, yeah, it goes through all the same stages. So from anger all the way to acceptance, and you can write your own poems or you can write your own little scribbles.
Wow.
If you're feeling like you're having a day where you're going through depression, that's a good place to put that. So yeah, that just happened today, and I was like, you know what, this is a good time to announce that, and it's kind of a surprise. I haven't announced it anywhere else yet, so.
Wow, thank you. I feel so honored, and you'll have to share the link so that I can promote it for you. And I actually I know somebody that I just met, and she um God bless her, she had actually just lost her daughter,
Oh my God.
and she started a grief support group for people so that she can not only heal herself but help heal others. So I can't wait to connect you with her. She's out here in Florida, but I just see so many wonderful things happening for you and you helping other people. And that's like what it's all about. That's what we're here on earth, is to help other people. And so you're obviously you're like living proof that you're a beautiful human being.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I would love to connect with her. You know, going through what I went through with my daughters, we almost lost my youngest.
I
And
remember.
it's one of those things that as a mother or as a parent in general, you're just like, oh, I could never imagine that, because you really can't until you go through it. And we were just a thread away from losing her. So that breaks my heart for her. And I'm even if I never speak with her, you have to tell her I'm so proud of her for taking that avenue, because I can't imagine, unfortunately, I can't imagine the kind of grief that she's going through, because we were so close to that. And
Yeah.
the fact that she has started that is just amazing. And that's what we're all here for. We're all here, I feel like, to lift each other up and to make the world a better place. And that's amazing to hear. And so, yes, I would love to connect with her. That would make me really happy. It's making me kind of teary-eyed thinking about it. But
Yeah, it does too. I actually asked her, it does for me too. We're kind of going down another route, but
no, I know I'm off topic.
I'm going to share it anyways, because you created that grief journal, which is going to also benefit so many people. I had actually asked her if she had any dreams of if her daughter came to her in her dream, because I had the most beautiful dream when my grandmother passed. She was sparkly and she's maybe like in her 40s. And she even asked me, like, she's like, she asked me about like something to ask my uncle, her baby, her last son that she had. And it was like, ask him to plant the poppy flowers. And when I asked him about it, he was just like, how did you know that? So I believe that our angels are obviously all around us. And I do feel that I received healing in a dream. And she said that she received the same type of dream where her daughter said has to go back to angel school or something like that. And so she found that healing. And so it's just beautiful when I hear other people are like, oh yeah, my loved one came to me in a dream. And so maybe I'm going to probably I can't wait to get that book, because I have a lot of stuff in my heart that I have to still get out. When you lose somebody, it's always in the back of your mind. You're always going to miss them because they're like a part of you.
Yeah, I was just crying the other day over my dad, which I lost him when I was 20, going on 21, and I still cry about. It's not like an everyday thing, and he shows up in dreams every now and then, and he leaves me little feathers, and it's grief is so tragic, but when you look at it, there's so much beauty in it too, because it shows you. And actually, there was a quote, and I'm gonna butcher it, but there was something that I read when I was going through that whole process, and it said the amount of grief that you feel is just showing you the amount that you actually loved. And there's so much beauty in that. And even when you lose love, you don't really ever really lose it. You don't, because there's always good. There's always good, even if it's something that is terribly. And it's just part of life. And it's one of those things that, like, you would never choose for yourself to go through. But if you can get through it and you can process it, there's so much growth. And the people that are on the other side, kind of on the spiritual realm or heaven, however you want to say it, they're rooting for us. They're rooting for us, and there's purpose in grief. There's purpose in grief. It's not for nothing. So keep journaling and keep getting all that stuff out, because like I said, I've just learned so much about myself just going through this process, and in learning that. And the same for your friend who lost her daughter. In learning that and being able to take that and kind of alchemize it, you're able to help other people. And that's what it's all about. And the people on the other side, they're rooting for us. So keep putting it out there, and let yourself grieve. And I talk about that in the book. Just like, if you've got to stay, there's a whole poem in there where, like, there were days where I stayed in bed for days. And I didn't move. I got up to take the kids to school, and I was a bad mom for a little while because I was just so overwhelmed, especially having going through everything with Sadie. But you have to have those days where, for me, I had to have grandma pick up the kids. I just stayed in bed, and you got to just let yourself let it out. You just got to hold yourself up. Don't talk to anybody. Know that that's part of the process, because that's where you find the healing, is by actually going through it, and there's purpose in it. So I just want to make sure that everybody, or anybody that's grieving anything, death, love, loss at all, let yourself grieve it.
Even postpartum, your old self.
Yes, absolutely.
Mommy too. Like, just letting yourself cry and wailing releases so much. I don't know if I'm sure there's studies or something. I'm not sure, but
there's like, in tears. Yeah. Because you can't bottle it up. You can't bottle it up, and it'll ruin you. You can't stay angry. You can't stay in depression. You can't stay there. But you also have to give yourself grief when you're in it, and realize there's purpose there too.
Yeah. And everybody, they process things a little bit differently, but at the same time, the same. So, one other question, or I guess 2 more questions before we wrap it up. What would you say? So, well, because we're talking about the grief journal now too.
I threw it in there on you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm love that as well. But one thing that everybody processes a little bit different. I remember I used to pretend to have phone calls with my Mimi, or I would like continue to text her even though it wasn't. I'm sure the lady that had her number was like, why do you keep texting me? But I actually got into like kickboxing to release it, because when you're angry, you're like, you got to get it out. So whether it's like running or exercising to get those endorphins, that really helped me process. And I guess, so my question for you is, how did you process your divorce? And like, how did you do any type of exercise? Like, what made you get out of bed? Because as we know, like, if you're depressed and you're staying in bed, we die. Like, we not like physically die, but like when you stop moving, it just doesn't get any better. And so you really have to motivate yourself. So what motivated you to get out of bed? And how did you stay disciplined through the writing process? And I'll leave it at that. And then I'll have one question after for you.
Yeah, sure. So I asked for help. There was a point where I went to the doctor and was like, look, I've got a lot going on. I just lost my dream house. I lost my marriage, almost lost my daughter. Real estate at the time was like kind of.
Because of the car accident too.
Yeah, all of it. And I was like, my whole life's falling apart and I need help. So I asked for help. I got into therapy, because you can't just bottle it in. And then, funny thing, fortunately, unfortunately, I've always struggled with depression, and I think I'm genetically inclined to deal with it. I know my mom struggled with it a lot, and I saw the way that she processed it, and I did not. This is no jab at my mom, because who the hell knows how to process divorce? I mean, not divorce, depression. She didn't know how to process it, and she let it eat away at her. So when you said that, I saw it happen. I did not want to be that way. So there's a balance between, I'm going to let myself grieve and I'm going to hold myself up. But knowing that depression is like an illness, it's like a virus. You got to get through it. You got to wait it out. But at some point, it's going to feel like you're never going to feel good again. But at some point, you have to move. You have to move. You have to go to the gym. You have to just go and listen to sometimes I would just drive and I would put on songs that always made me feel good because that's all I would go to Starbucks and I would just drive and I would just put on good music that would be uplifting. So that may not have cured the depression, but it got me through that day. Or it was something that uplifted my spirits for a little bit. And it was slowly moving back to trying to feel normal and having that knowing that this feels like it's going to be forever, but it's not going to be forever. And if I just make little movements, then I'll get there. And then the writing process was healing. The writing process was healing for me. And there were times where I wanted to turn on 90 Day Fiance and not write.
Mm-hmm.
Actually do it at night when my kids would go to bed. And, that was tempting. But then again, it goes back to that purpose. And I was on a mission and I knew I had to get it done. So when it comes to being disciplined, there's a balance. You've got to let yourself grieve, let yourself be there in depression, while also taking little steps to move out of it, asking for help, because you used to have to turn me inside out to get me to ask for help. And I really had to call on some friends and just sob on the phone and just get it out. And or have them just come sit with me because I was afraid I was going to do something to myself if I was alone much longer, or having panic attacks, and just somebody to sit there with me. So asking for help, letting yourself process it, and find little ways to move. And don't rush yourself, just day by day. And find some other place to put your focus, even if it's for a small amount of time.
You're a badass girl. The fact that you just going, those are definitely really good suggestions. You just to get the shit out of you. It doesn't feel good. Now I can't relate fully with what because we do not have the same feelings. Everybody's different. Everybody feels differently. So everybody comprehends things. And when I didn't mention, but I did go through some cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I joined an app, I think it was called Better Health.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helped me. I was on that forever. And so much that I ended up, I think I got off, and then I got a new one because my other therapist, she had to go on a sabbatical or something. And but it really did help. And then but I had stuff from childhood things too sometimes. Yeah. But
we all do.
Yeah.
You've never been through a divorce.
Right.
It doesn't matter. The situation doesn't matter. We all experience grief. We all experience that stage of depression. And there's not one that's, better more than the other. We all have to learn how to process it. And therapy is what gave me the idea to start putting it in a journal. And it's what opened me back up to writing. And again, I would never have asked for that to be put on me. But here I am now, having gone through it, and you've gone through it, and you're processing it. And how many people, it's like little ripples, how many people might hear this or might talk to one of us, and they hear that, this is, you've gone through this, you've processed this, helped you, let me try this. How many people can you help just from going through it? And that's what I was saying, going back to purpose. There's a purpose for it. And so you can relate just fine. Grief is grief, no matter how you process it or no matter where it came from. Oh my God.
Yeah, girl. You know what? Throwing. I heard it once, when you throw a rock or a pebble into a stream, it still makes ripples, and that's how trauma feels. It's the ripples may not be big or small, it still makes a ripple. So
but if you touch this person, and then that person touches another person, and that person touches another person, there's value to all of it. There's soul growth to all of it. So if nothing else, if you're in that place, if anybody's ever listening where you're just in the deepest, darkest pits of depression, just know if you can pull yourself out of it, you're going to be able to help someone else pull out of it too. So there's your purpose. Get out on the other side of it, because there's value to what you're learning when you do that. And there it is a ripple effect. One little small pebble can do a whole lot, and the world needs that.
I definitely wholeheartedly believe that. Like, we can use our words to, I just read the book, The Four Agreements, and a lot of people can use their, it's called, I guess the first agreement is more of, words can be white magic or black magic.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use them to be an impeccable person in using impeccable words. So that way, when you are speaking to somebody, you're sharing kindness or you're helping them in some way, never tearing somebody down, because that's only going to come back towards you. So that's beautiful the way you stated that. And I guess for my last question for you would be, what are your long-term goals as an author and an entrepreneur? And how long did it, first of all, how long did it take you from start to finish to create the book? Like a year, 8 weeks? Was there a time frame? And then, yeah, I would love to know your long-term goals as an author and entrepreneur. And then also, where can we, I know you stated it one time, but we want to wrap up, and I'll let you tell us where we can buy your Dearly Divorced book as well as your grief journal.
Absolutely. So yeah, once, I had probably gone through 6 months of therapy and kind of 6 months of journaling before I really started to see it develop and get the idea of publishing a book. And then once I decided I was going to do it, I did have to remain disciplined, and it took about a year to get it all organized, to start the process with Rachel, and then maybe another 3 to 6 months for design. I can't really remember. So about a year and a half total, but there was a lot going on in between there where we were stopping and starting because I had just still dealing with my daughter's crash and all that. So, about a year and a half, but I was very disciplined in getting it done. And as far as now, it's just like it opened up my whole essence. And I'm just back to writing all the time. I'm working on my second book now. Rachel's going to design it with me again. I'm going to use her. And this one is going to be, so I've been back in the dating role. So this one's going to be love. And it's not just going to be the good stuff. It's going to be the good, the bad, the ugly in between, situationships, just experiences that we have as humans, dating and being in love. And some of it's even, I went back again into my old archives, and some of it's like stuff that I wrote like years ago that I'm just kind of freshening up, and I'm going to use the same process. And that's going to be coming up next. And then there's another one following that. I don't know how long it'll be. And this one is more, it's going to be poetry. I've always wanted to write a book, something along the lines of like things that my mother didn't teach me. That's not going to be the title. I don't know what it's going to be. But it's going to be like these little like life lessons or these little nuggets that I've picked up along the way. That would be not one I'm going to dedicate to my children. So it's just going to be poetry about life in general and things that I've learned. And so those are the next two things that I'm working on. And then in the meantime, I'm just going to keep working to get the book in stores, promoting it, sharing it. And I'm just going to keep writing. And I would like to move back into songwriting, but I don't remember how to play keyboard or guitar anymore. But I would like to get
back for that.
I want to get back into that because I love that. And I was with somebody for a long time, and he was a musician, and we used to write songs together. That was one thing we did. And I loved that, and I want to do that again. So maybe that, and I just want to keep meeting writers and authors, and it's opened me up to like a whole new, avenue of people, that I've got to meet and connect with, and I love that. So that's kind of my goal, and just going to keep putting stuff out and hope people read it and hope people find value in it.
Amazing with with you learning how to play the keyboard or write your music. I highly suggest there's an app called Musician.
Oh, okay.
They should be paying me right now for promoting this. But yeah, Musician. It's a cute little app, and you can learn how to play guitar on there, and you can sing. That's what I was doing for a little bit. I need to be more consistent with it, but I would love to start.
We'll start a girl
What?
band.
Yes, I know. I wished you lived closer.
I know. Hey, but you can do everything virtually. No. And I'm gonna come to Florida. I really am. I'm just gonna show up. Like, hey, I'm here.
I have a place for you to stay, and we can have some girl time.
Yeah, I would love to meet your little one, and I've never got to meet your husband and just reconnect with you. I'm sure by the end of the night we'll just be honky tonkin'.
Oh my gosh, it would be so much fun to have a Texan in my house. Yeah. My husband actually, he started having an accent. Like other people, like, yeah, from being around me. So he'll get on these sales calls and they're like, "Oh, you're from Texas," and he's like, "No, I'm from Pennsylvania."
Oh my God, Pennsylvania! They can pick up his Texan accent.
Texas accent because of me.
And when I go home, because I try to talk very professional and like the world that I'm in. I have to. You know, I don't want to sound like Ellie Mae, but then I go home and I'm like, "Hey y'all, what y'all doing?" And it just comes out and it sticks with me. You get rid of it.
Girl, keep it. Keep it. I got rid of mine. When I was 22, I worked for this startup car company, and the guy went to Harvard and Princeton, and I thought I needed to get rid of my accent to fit in, and no, you need to shine brighter. Make that accent go even the twangest, strongest twang that you can ever have.
You can't ever fully put it in the box. It's always there. People always pick up on it. But yeah, I try to keep it, you know, so I don't sound silly. But
no, you don't. No. There's a quote from this show, Heart of Dixie, and it's there's no sweeter sound than the voice of an educated Southern woman.
Oh, look at you. I love that.
I love that saying. I don't know. So now I'm like, okay, in my little Florida world, I try to bring my accent out still sometimes.
The good thing is people in Florida love people from Texas, and we're all just like besties from across
the little besties. We're like almost as big as Texas.
I know. They're my kind of people. I've met a lot of people from Florida, and we just seem to click. So
yeah. It's a little different out here though too. There's some parts sometimes I feel like I'm in an entirely different country. It's beautiful. The food is amazing. The people are fun, and yeah, I love it. I'm not going anywhere, so Florida is my home.
Love that for you
now. So, but okay, well, I'm so grateful that you took the time. I feel honored that you were able to discuss your book, Dearly Divorced, as well as you're introducing your grief journal that is soon to be out on Amazon. And I know that you're going to make it in Barnes and Noble. I'm going to connect you with my cousin as well. And yeah, you know what? I want to check the chat to see if there's any questions. Let me see.
Yeah, and you can find Dearly Divorced on Amazon.com. You can find it on BarnesandNoble.com, and then the notebook should be available any day. And then, of course, they can find me on Instagram. I have a poetry page, but I've started finding that it's easier just post my personal page. So I'm at the Amy Bolding on Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook as well. The goal is to start publishing more poetry. That's probably, you asked if that's something that I need to get over. I need to get over not posting that kind of stuff online, but I don't know why. Like, I'll give a whole book to everybody, but I feel vulnerable posting them on my page. But anyways, so I'll start posting some more on there, and you know, people can find me there, and there's a link you can order the book from there too.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. There was a yin yoga class that I took when I was going through my postpartum, and she used to bring this girl's poetry book with her to class, and she would always read a piece of the poem out of it at the end of the session, and it was just always so healing. So I hope that somebody picks up the book and does that for other people to heal their hearts too. You are such a beautiful soul, Amy, and I will be sure to link your books. Please go ahead and follow her. And then as well, if y'all want to, if you're not already following me, I'm Jenna Camille Burns on Instagram. And Amy, if you want to promote also, if you're an entrepreneur, anybody who's listening, and Amy, of course, I have a free community. You just go to selfmadebabes.com and you click to join. It takes you to the Facebook group, and I give away pretty bottles like this and hats like that for being part of the community. So Amy, you'll have to get your address so I can send you some goodies. Yay. And I'm just so grateful. Is there anything else that you want to say to the viewers before we end it? Because I know people might be still at work or picking up their babies. So I know people are going to be replaying this.
Yeah, just again, we're all human. We all go through emotions like these, and don't be afraid to reach out for help. Don't be afraid to reach out to talk to somebody. You can talk to me. You don't know me, but I'm a good listener. And if not me, just somebody. And just know you'll get through it. It feels like the day is heavy. Just keep going. You do eventually get through it. So I hope if anybody's struggling out there with grief, depression, loss, heartbreak, that you find somebody to connect with, because I promise you there's somebody that's going through it or has gone through what you've gone through. So just keep on keeping on and find a way to process it. And that's all.
That's beautiful. Thank you for being such a genuine friend. And I am so excited to share your story with others. And I hope that you have a blessed evening. And I know you're about to go play with your 3 littles.
I gotta get dinner on the table, girl. They're like,
I know, girl. I gotta do the same. Well, hubby has been watching Azalea, my daughter, and so I think
But thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this platform. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And
anytime.
Yeah, and y'all join her community. She's amazing. I've known her for a long time. People, the real ones, and she's a real one. So I appreciate what you do as well. And like I said, I'll be heading out to Florida one of these days soon. We'll catch up.
You got a place. Mi casa is su casa. All right. Thank you so much, Amy. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll catch up with you soon.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and can't wait for the next session. And you can get Amy's books off of Amazon and through her links. I'll link that down below. Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Bye.